Two Canadian buyers, same year, same money. One takes a mainstream laminated travel trailer home new for about $40,000. A decade later, the best dealer offer sits somewhere between $10,000 and $14,000. The other spends close to the same money on a molded fiberglass trailer built in British Columbia. A decade later, that one changes hands privately between $30,000 and $38,000, and it never touches a lot. Same winters, same gravel, same salt. Here's the part buyers often miss. That gap was decided in a factory, not in a driveway. One trailer was built to a shipping weight and a price tag. The other was built from materials that do not absorb water in a plant that turns out a few hundred units a year instead of a few hundred a week. Canada builds trailers. Almost nobody shops for them. They are low volume, plainly finished, often heavier, and rarely stocked where most buyers actually walk, so they never enter the comparison. Today, I am going through 5 of them, judged on construction, cold weather build, parts availability from an ordinary Canadian technician, and what used listings in this country actually do. And one of the 5 was built by a company that no longer exists. The trailers are still working. Subscribe before we get into it. This list pays for itself. Number 1. Prolite. It earns its place by removing the material that causes most long-term trailer failure in a freeze-thaw climate, and doing it at the lightest weight and the lowest price on this list. Prolite is built in Quebec by a family-run manufacturer that has been at it since the mid-2000s. It sells mainly through Quebec and Ontario dealers. West of Ontario, it is close to invisible. The walls and floor are built as composite sandwich panels rather than wood framing. Prolite has marketed the structure as wood-free, and on the model years where that applies, it changes what the trailer is able to rot. Dry weights have run roughly 1,000 to 3,000 pounds, depending on model and year, which puts several of them inside the tow rating of a 4-cylinder crossover. Because the build is panel-based, damage gets replaced as a section rather than opened up, dried out, and reframed. New pricing has run in the $25,000 to $45,000 range, and used units turn up between $18,000 and $30,000. Buyers walk past it because it looks small and plain next to a 30-foot laminated trailer on the same lot, and most people shop by square footage. In owner terms, every piece of wood in a trailer is a repair the weather has already scheduled for you. Take the wood out of the structure and the schedule disappears. Resale holds up better than mainstream entry-level trailers because the people shopping these tow with small vehicles and cannot simply substitute something heavier. Find the compliance label, read the gross vehicle weight rating and the axle rating, then weigh the trailer loaded at a scale. If the loaded weight sits at or above that rating, and on a light unit it often does once water, batteries, and gear are aboard, the axles and the tires have been working past their numbers. Those are consumables now, not assets. That is what the money is actually buying, not floor space. A structure that does not soak up what this country throws at it every spring. A Prolite is a composite hockey stick. Same job as the wooden one, but it does not warp, does not swell, and does not split the first time it gets soaked. The next one makes the same argument from the other end of the calendar. It outlived the factory that built it by about 40 years. Number 2. Trillium. Molded fiberglass shells built in Ontario in the 1970s and early 80s are still on Canadian roads and still dry inside, which is the longest-running durability test in the domestic market. Original production ran through the 70s into the early 80s. The name has been picked up and revived under different ownership since then, so check what you are actually looking at before you buy. The shell is 2 molded fiberglass halves bonded together at a belt line. There is no wood framing in it. Typical 13-foot units run roughly 900 to 1,300 pounds dry, which is small car territory. What owners report failing is appliances, wiring, windows, and frame rust, replaceable systems. The shell itself is not what shows up in those reports. A restoration community keeps vents, hardware, and some window parts circulating, though specific gaskets can take patience to find. Used pricing has run roughly $6,000 to $18,000 depending on condition and how much restoration work has already been paid for. Nobody shortlists it because it has no real bathroom, no slide, and it is 50 years old. In owner terms, when the structure and the skin are the same single object, there is no cavity between them for water to get into. That is the entire reason these are still here. Newer doesn't always mean better built. Prices have climbed steadily. Clean, documented units sell privately within days, and rough projects sell too, which is where people get hurt. Get underneath and look at the mounting points where the shell meets the frame and at the steel around them. Crack lines radiating out from the bolts, elongated bolt holes, or heavily scaled frame rails mean the shell has been flexing against weakened steel. That is a body-off repair, not a weekend. That is what the money is actually buying. Half a century of proof that the failure mode most trailers are built around simply is not present in this one. A Trillium is a 1970s glass mixing bowl. Nobody bought it as an heirloom, and it quietly outlived the kitchen, the house, and the people who picked the wallpaper. The next one is ordinary wood and aluminum construction, built for prairie winters, and its factory is gone. If this has already changed your shortlist, hit the like button. It keeps these breakdowns coming. Number 3, Travel Air. This is a trailer specified for prairie winters rather than for a national price point, and units are still working 2 decades after the company stopped building them. Travel Air was built in Red Deer, Alberta, and manufacturing ended in the late 2000s. What is circulating now is mostly 1990s and 2000s model years. Cold weather insulation packages and enclosed underbellies were available across a good part of the range rather than reserved for a top trim, though what any given unit actually has depends on how it was ordered. Construction is conventional wood frame with aluminum siding. That matters more than it sounds because a wood-framed aluminum wall can be repaired by any shop in the country with materials they already stock. A laminated wall cannot. Furnaces, fridges, and water systems were mainstream North American brands, so the mechanical side is still serviceable. Used pricing has run roughly $5,000 to $15,000 depending on year and condition. Buyers skip it because the brand is gone. No warranty, no factory, no dealer, no reassurance. In owner terms, an orphaned brand is a supply problem, not a mechanical one. The furnace, the axles, and the plumbing are all still buyable. The brand-specific window frame is not. It isn't perfect, but it's usually repairable. Prices sit below equivalent age mainstream units purely because of the missing badge, and that discount is the whole case for a buyer who can inspect. This is the water unit on the list. Press hard with your thumb at the entry step, at all 4 corners of the bathroom floor, and under every window. Then read the front cap seam and the roof edge closely. Softness underfoot or a lifted seam on a wood frame trailer this age means the repair reaches into the floor structure, and the trim needed to close it back up is no longer being made. A small leak turns into a very large repair. That is what the money is actually buying. Winner specification and simple repairable systems at a price set by the absence of a logo. A Travel Air is an orphan farm tractor. The iron will outlast everyone in this conversation. The trick is finding the man who still keeps the gaskets on a shelf. That one is cheap because nobody stands behind it. The next one costs real money because the people who build it never let a dealer touch it. Number 4, Escape. This is a molded fiberglass trailer sold factory direct with no dealer network, which is exactly why most buyers have never seen one and exactly why the used ones hold their price. Escape is built in Chilliwack, British Columbia, and has been in production since the 1990s. You order it from the factory. There is no lot. The shell is 2 molded fiberglass pieces bonded at a belt line, offered in travel trailer lengths through the high teens and low 20s, plus a fiberglass fifth wheel. Build slots have historically been booked months out, which means most units are ordered before they exist. Used units frequently list at or near what they originally cost after several years, and that is not normal towable behavior. New pricing has run roughly $40,000 to $70,000, depending on model, year, and options. Because there is no dealer layer, build records and service history tend to sit with the factory, rather than scattered across 3 shops in 2 provinces. Buyers miss it because you cannot walk onto a lot and stand in one, and most shopping still happens by visiting dealers. In owner terms, no dealer network means no dealer markup and no lot inventory pressure. Here's the part buyers often miss. It also means the pre-delivery inspection is done by the people who built it, rather than by whoever was available on a Saturday. Demand runs ahead of supply, so used units move privately and quickly, often to somebody willing to drive a province or two to collect. Take the serial number and confirm the original build sheet and option list with the factory before any money moves. If the factory record does not match the seller's description, different axle rating, different tank sizes, options that were never fitted, you are looking at either a misrepresented unit or one modified in ways that change its weight and its coverage. That is what the money is actually buying. A trailer with a paper trail that starts at the mold and never passes through a sales floor. An escape is a pair of work boots ordered straight from the shop that makes them. No store ever displayed them, so nobody knows they exist, and they outlast 3 pairs bought off the rack. The last one on this list stopped completely. The fact that it came back is the strongest evidence in this video. Subscribe if you want the rest of it. We are not finished yet. Number 5. Bigfoot. This is a molded fiberglass 4-season trailer built heavy on purpose, and its product was valuable enough that after the original company failed, somebody bought the molds and started building it again. Bigfoot is built in Armstrong, British Columbia. The original operation ceased around 2008, and production restarted under new ownership roughly 2 years later. Construction is 2 molded fiberglass shells with insulation between them. No laminated sidewall, which means no delamination, because there is no lamination to fail. The 4-season specification has included enclosed and heated holding tank compartments and elevated insulation values rather than a cold weather decal, though what is standard varies by model year. Dry weights run heavier than comparable length mainstream trailers, with a mid-20s foot unit landing somewhere around 5,500 to 6,500 pounds. Used units from the 2010s have listed roughly between $35,000 and $70,000, depending on year, length, and condition. Buyers skip it because the interior is conservative, the price is above mainstream trailers of the same length, and it weighs more than the truck they already own can pull. In owner terms, the weight is the product. Every pound the mainstream builder took out to make towing easy came out of insulation, resin thickness, or frame steel. And those are the exact pounds a Canadian February goes looking for. Depreciation runs shallow, and clean units get chased across the country. The problem is finding one, not affording one. Open the underbelly and confirm the freeze protection is real. Tanks fully enclosed inside the heated envelope, with a furnace duct that actually terminates in the tank bay. A duct that ends short, or a tank strapped out in open air, means the winter rating is marketing, and the first hard freeze finds the valves. That is what the money is actually buying, not a rating on a brochure, an insulated envelope with the plumbing inside it. A Bigfoot is a thermos flask, 2 molded shells, a sealed insulated space between them, and total indifference to what the weather is doing outside. 5 trailers, and every one of them is unwanted for a reason that has nothing to do with how it was built. They are unwanted because of how they were sold. Low volume, few dealers, plain finishes, awkward waits. In 2 cases, a company that stopped answering the phone. Canadian buyers shop the lots that carry the most inventory, and the builders carrying the most inventory are the ones optimizing for lot appeal. Durability and desirability are decided by two different departments in two different companies, and the buyer never sees the first one. The best one is the one still working after the payments stop. Nothing on a walkthrough tells you which of those two departments won. Stop buying on the walkthrough. Start buying on the paperwork. 1. Ask what the wall, floor, and roof structure is made of, material by material. If the seller cannot name the substrate, assume wood and price it that way. 2. Get underneath with a light and find where the tanks live. Tanks hanging in open air mean the winter rating is a sticker. 3. Name 3 parts you would need in year 5. A window seal, a furnace board, an entry door, and phone a Canadian supplier before you buy. A part nobody stocks is a trailer nobody fixes. 4. Weigh the trailer loaded at a scale and compare it against the compliance label rather than the brochure. A unit already at its rating is already eating axles and tires. 5. Search sold Canadian listings for that model at 5 and 10 years old. The used price is the only quality survey nobody can pay to influence. The company that no longer exists is Travel Air, and units built in Red Deer are still going through prairie winters 2 decades on. But if you want that kind of survival without the parts hunt, the pick is Bigfoot. Molded fiberglass, tanks inside the heated envelope, and a product good enough that somebody bought the molds and restarted the line. If you tow with a small vehicle, take the Prolite instead. Tell me in the comments which one you would put your own money on. Buy carefully, inspect everything, and I'll see you in the next one.